never be satisfied. Don't get I've dubbed the term, I'm sure that someone else has dubbed this, but in my circle of friends and people I haven't heard anyone use this, but the fat cat syndrome. You have a great quarter, great year, great growth. Don't get complacent.
Welcome to the MediaCore Minute Podcast. My name is Josh Langmaid, and I am the owner of MediaCore here in Rochester, video production agency. And I'm here with PJ. And PJ is an entrepreneur, soon to be the CEO and president of CWS, a software company in Rochester as well. Thanks for coming on today, PJ.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Josh. This is great.
Absolutely. Making it on episode 5.
Number 5. Wow.
Number 5.
That's good. You guys got to 5.
We're rocking and rolling. The 20 will be around the corner.
Oh, it comes quick, I'm sure.
Yeah. To start, I was thinking back on when was the first time that we met, and I believe it was that the Eventi launch party up in China Hall.
Yeah.
Probably 2 years ago or more.
Yeah, before the pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty, maybe not.
2019, actually.
Yeah, probably 2019 is when they had their launch party at China Hall.
Yeah, and I just met you in passing.
Yep.
You're a big deal back then. I was just getting started. So
I don't know how big a deal it was back then.
No, so I met you there, and then I met Sonny, who was part of CWS at the time, and I think we got connected with him, and then I ended up going out and I shot a little promo video with you guys.
Yeah, you did. Yep, you came and sat in some client meetings and some team meetings.
That was really early on.
Captured a bunch of video.
That was one of my first corporate gigs, I feel like, and it was fun. It turned out good, but now I look back, I'm like, man, we gotta redo that.
Yeah.
But from there it was just. I think we just continued.
Just always kept talking and
grabbing lunch
or happy hours, and and then you guys had me over at China Hall one time to talk digital ads.
That's right.
Yeah,
came up with a whole strategy for us, and I don't think we really used it because we didn't really go that route. But I still have the papers for when we start digital marketing for clients, and it has been brought up. It definitely is. Something I think we can do pairing with video is the digital marketing, but
seems like a good fit for you guys.
Yeah. We just got to hire you.
Right.
CWS. Just briefly touch on what that is, and then I want to get into a little bit of your history.
Yeah. So CWS, Corporate Web Services, has been in Rochester just over 25 years. We just celebrated our 25th anniversary.
Nice.
Just this year. Yeah, this August,
Right.
I think, was the official date that we celebrated that. Started by Kim and Alan DeCarroll, locals here in Rochester. And I was brought on the team, I'm getting close to my 7th year anniversary. And at that time, it was digital marketing, hosting, websites, programming, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And we, worked closely with Mayo Clinic on a handful of projects over the years. And slowly there was this one product that we worked with them that we kind of ran with called the Wellbeing Index. And that's now really become more of our focus and where my focus is, and where we're leading the team for the future is focusing on that product, the Wellbeing Index. So that's kind of the CWS story here, and that's why it's we're calling it now a software company, because that's truly what we are and where we're moving towards. Even entirely 100% eventually in the future is our pieces of software that we've developed.
Yeah,
and
we'll definitely get into more of that and what you're doing. Going back and growing up, I know you've had an entrepreneurial spirit for a long time, and growing up from our conversations, I know that there's been a family business in there.
Yep.
So kind of take me through, you're young, you're growing up, let's go over the family business and just how that affected you, and the decisions you made just in life and where you wanted to go.
Affected me a lot in a good, positive way, I'd say. Both my parents were entrepreneurs. They had a business that they ran out of their house, And I always enjoyed that, loved it, looked up to them when they were running businesses, and they still do today. And, so it started with a Kool-Aid stand, 8 years old, got some neighborhood kids. We lived in the suburbs of Chicago at the time.
Yeah.
And that was my first taste of, having a Kool-Aid stand with my siblings and my friends. And
how many times did you do it? Because I feel like a lot of us have had like a lemonade stand or something like that, but it lasts like 2 hours and then like you never do
Oh,
it
no.
again.
For 2 summers, it was like a summer job.
Really?
We had schedules, and it was 7 days a week, as long as the weather was good. Someone within our core group of friends and siblings, the Kool-Aid stand was up.
Where was it? Just outside the house?
Yeah, we lived in this pretty dense neighborhood, Melrose Park, Illinois, not far from Chicago. And just 2 blocks down the street was a very busy kind of cross street between, a couple neighborhoods. And that's where we would post up. And it actually worked out really well because it had this huge shoulder. So it was basically like parking that people could pull over. And, we got very strategic with it. And I think this is, my parents teaching us, as young entrepreneurs, hey, there's always a better way to try and figure out how to get more people to come buy your Kool-Aid. So our first I remember a week or so, we just were sitting at the stand, but by the time people got to the Kool-Aid stand, it was already too late for them to try and stop and pull over. So then the idea came, well, why don't we get someone or a couple kids with signs to go a block up, to say Kool-Aid, 25 cents, 1 block ahead, free parking available. And so then you get people slowing down and preparing, and then, so it was a ton of fun, and that was kind of the first taste.
Was there regulars?
There was UPS and FedEx drivers.
Nice.
And maybe even back then, I think, DHL was still pretty prominent in that service. And those were the guys that stopped quite a bit, and they'd also give us a $20.
Awesome.
There was one guy that did give us $100 one day. That was pretty sweet. But so yeah, those were our regulars.
That's great.
Yeah. So that started, 8 or 9 years old, and that kind of was the first taste of a business. And from there was other milestones and things that we've done.
What were your parents doing? You said that they were kind of entrepreneurs as well. What was that? What were they doing at the time?
Yeah. So my dad is a lifelong professional musician. And during that time, my mom and dad were doing school assemblies, elementary, middle school, and it was all drug prevention, self-esteem building, those types of kind of school assemblies. So that was their jam for, they probably maybe close to 20 years. Wow. That ran. And, it was in the Chicago Public School District. They started getting up into Wisconsin. My mom's from Hayward, Wisconsin, so they always did that school district. And but yeah, it was primarily in southern Wisconsin, Illinois. And that's what they were doing with their entrepreneurial family business when I was growing up. And then Buttons kind of became that was the next step to our evolution of a business was, my grandpa, really saw us knocking it out of the park with this Kool-Aid stand.
Yeah.
And my mom had the idea that the kids could make buttons for the kid shows. And just so everyone's clear, it's like a promotional button, campaign, political button. It's not a shirt button.
Like the sewn on kind of like one.
No, not sewn on ones.
Okay.
Nope. It's like a pin.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yep. So promotional marketing type button. She asked my grandpa for Christmas that year if he'd buy us a button machine, and that was it was a gift for myself and my brother and my sister, and our first customer was my mom and dad for their kids shows. We made buttons for their shows.
Nope.
But then in the summer we kind of took that group that was selling Kool-Aid, and then that was we live in a dense neighborhood. Let's sell buttons door to door. So we got some designs we ordered and printed online and sold buttons door to door. Yep.
Like just kids knocking
on the door.
How many buttons did you have?
We had I think it was 16 or 20 different designs.
Yeah.
And we probably, each kid's probably carrying around a bag of 100 buttons, and we, spread out, divide and conquer. And
that's awesome.
So
did you kind of lead this, or who was, because there's got to be someone that's still heading on.
Yeah. I wasn't the oldest. I was up there, though. There was a couple kids that were the same age or a little bit older than me. So I think collectively we were kind of, they were the biggest kids and all that. But I will say it was my button machine, and all the activities and all the planning was done at my house. So kind of naturally had that leadership type role, and that's kind of my first taste of it in life was that.
So do you think, everyone kind of has like a mindset change or like a, this is when the light bulb went off. Do you think that early on is kind of when you had your like, okay, there's something to this. There's something to, business and entrepreneurship. Would you say it was then, or, had that not fully come yet?
Sure. Yeah. I remember very distinctly the like aha of profit,
Right.
just understanding that whole thing. Like, hey, for 50 cents, you can make a huge thing of Kool-Aid that sells for $20. Mm-hmm. And the difference when you take out your cost, what's left over is your profit.
Yep.
And if you just do that a bunch of times, in my mind it was like, well, if I do that 40 times, I can go get whatever I want. I want to get that new gaming, thing or whatever it was at that time. That's kind of, I remember that moment learning that from my parents. And I think I was right around like 5 years old. And that's why when it was like 6 or 7, I started seeing the opportunity. Okay, I got some friends. Mm-hmm. I don't need to do this all my own. My siblings are older now. They can help. Let's do this Kool-Aid stand.
That's great.
So, but I think there's different milestones of aha.
How that elevates.
Yeah, as you go through, we had a family business and, we still do 20 some years in it, working with your siblings and your mom and your dad and your stepdad, and just everyone's involved in the same business. Mm-hmm. There's, different levels of kind of, I would say, leadership. And then just, responsibility that you start to learn and take on.
Right.
And there's different kind of, I'd say, things similar to that. Well, I just learned about profit. Now it's, I just learned how to really, bring in talent, and that process worked really well. Or, hey, I just really learned how to turn someone around from, not showing up on time to now is one of our best employees. And there's a different levels of kind of becoming an entrepreneur and a leader.
Yep.
When I learned about profit, I wasn't thinking about being a president and having employees, and it was just, whoa, 50 cents can turn into $20, and so $19.50 is mine to keep. And if I do that 20 times, boom, I can go get the new PlayStation. That was kind of how I originally thought. But over, I'm 36, going to be 37 in February.
Nice.
So I'm getting close to that 30 years of being an entrepreneur. And I'd say, every 5 to 10 years, you have these moments that you kind of break through another level of growth.
So going back to the buttons, and I know this is still around, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in St. Charles, Minnesota right now.
Like when did, how did that kind of progress as you as kids selling door to door to where it's at today?
The birth of the internet, it was that transition. I'm an older millennial, I guess. Mm-hmm. I'm on the high end of the age group, and computers and desktop computers and internet connections, high-speed internet connections, all of that came out when I was in middle school and high school. So we were selling door to door. We were making buttons for our parents' school assemblies, and that was like years and years. And then the internet started to become a thing. And, mm-hmm.
My
mom and their business, they always invested in, the best technology. We were one of the first people on our, street or in our neighborhood to have a desktop computer in our house.
Nice.
And I remember it was some crazy, ridiculous amount of money. My dad, was a little upset on the amount, but my mom was certain within like 2 years it will pay for itself. And I think it paid for itself in like the first year. She mm-hmm. proved that, hey, I was able to send out this many more postcards, and from those postcards we got these shows. It paid for that computer. Yep. So we always kind of had that, because my mom was very much like, I need to be as efficient as possible and invest in the technology and just make it pay for itself. So she had a computer. Then we started hearing about the internet, and we got connected, and she learned HTML, and we were and I don't know for sure, but looking back, and I've done a little research, just, see if I can find stuff on Wayback Machine or find anything that can refute this, and I haven't.
Yep.
But from our understanding, we were the first button company to have a website in America.
That's sick.
So we had a one-page HTML website. She taught herself how to do HTML to get a website up, and then before you know it, we were taking orders over the phone from all over the country.
That's insane.
And every year, it just kind of got bigger and bigger and bigger, and here we are today.
Wow. So what does it currently look like? I don't want to get too much into it, but today, what does that look like?
Yeah, so it's grown into being a full print shop, and we've got over 5,000 square feet of warehouse and production space in St. Charles,
Yep.
right on Main Street there, and we do everything you can think of in a traditional print shop and promotional product standpoint, but buttons are still the main
Yep.
product that we sell.
And who's currently running it?
So my mom and stepdad are still there and running the day to day, and my brother and sister are still there as well.
Nice.
With the pandemic, our staff has shrunk a bit. Without big events, and
Right.
the last election, there weren't all the big rallies and all the stuff that we used to do.
Right.
So we've shrunk a little bit in size. So I'm not sure where they're at, because I'm not really a part of the day to day anymore. But yeah, it's still up and running. They all sound like they're busy.
I mean, it's got to be cool though
Yeah.
for you growing up, just to see how, having parents that are entrepreneurs, starting this company, seeing where it grew, milestones like the internet breaking through, and just the growth of that had to be really cool. Dude, I don't even know this yet. Did you end up going to college? Because I don't think we ever even talked about that.
So I did, and it was totally not the cool thing to do like it is like today. But right out of high school, and primarily because I had the family business to go right into. I was already a salaried employee, was making good money, and I wanted to really see what I could do with that. But I did online school for 2 years, got all my generals done, and then after that, just never completed that. So I guess you'd say I'm a college dropout is my title.
Like all the greats, basically.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So when was there like the shift into CWS then? Because you've been there, like you said, almost 7 years now.
Yeah, I was getting close to turning 30, and I don't know, just woke up one day, had this thought of, something happened to my mom and stepdad, and no one really could vouch for my work, and I don't have a degree that's, says I've accomplished something, that I can maybe take there. So I kind of was, feeling like I should explore and see what's out there, and maybe try something to get more skills and knowledge. And so I actually looked at a couple companies in town and just looked at what positions they had open. And at CWS, because at the button factory, I was kind of our main technology person. I was doing all the marketing and digital ads and running our Google ads campaigns and things like that. But then when it came to programming and hosting and websites, I learned that stuff too. I was kind of the person that, and we kind of had this model that someone in the family always needs to know every little element, so that at the very least, the family can run the entire
Everyone
operation.
gets their own aspect to the company.
Yeah, and my mom too. We were always ones that the more that we know, the better. So I would even learn years after not running the press.
Right.
I'd still come back and do the initial training and learn how to do it, just in case I could show up if need be.
Yep.
But so I actually applied at CWS for a programming position and an open sales position. So I went through their interviewing process and got offered the sales position, and I took it. So that's kind of how I made that transition over there.
So you were working at the button company, and but you just wanted something different or something new, or maybe like that. This is we're growing, but it's what else is out there, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So you get the job at CWS doing sales, and at the time you were selling, like you said, CWS was more digital marketing, web-based services, things like that. How long had CWS been in business at the time?
So that would be 19 years when I got hired. They were 19 years old. Yeah, because I remember it was maybe after my first year, we did the 20th anniversary kind of promotion and thing that we did. So.
And how big was the team?
Oh, man, when I got hired, we were more than 20. I think we were in 22, 23 people. And I got hired at a wave where they were hiring a lot. There was, because I was one of maybe 3 or 4 salespeople that came on at that time. There was maybe 2 or 3 marketing people that came on in that time, with all in a there's a programmer came on within maybe 4 or 5 months. So there's like this little period of hiring that CWS was pulled a bunch of people all on at the same time, and I was kind of part of that group.
So where, obviously you've moved up throughout, these 7 years that you've been there. We'll get into that. Do you think part of like because even myself, like I've had a business now for 4 years or whatever it is, but like every place I've worked, I feel like I've progressed very quickly. And I don't know if that's just like the hunger of an entrepreneur or something like that, but I mean, did you feel that when you came into CWS as a salesperson and now going into next year as a CEO of it, like what was part of like, that driving force for you?
Sure. Yeah. I think to your first question, that was quick, like ascension in, a handful of years.
Right.
But yeah, for me, it was, and this is my side of the story. I think just being open, asking the right questions, and I was always curious of why are we doing it that way, or what's that little product over there? What's that about? Why aren't we selling that more? Or, hey, I found this new way or this new service we can offer that I think provides a better service to our customers and might make us more profitable. And so I think those types of things are part of the reason that, I kind of moved up quickly, which I feel definitely I moved up quickly. My mindset, when I got hired, first I was like, all right, I'll probably be in the sales position 3 years, and then we'll see where we're at. And if there's no chance to move up, then maybe I'll start looking somewhere else. But it was really like, hey, I'll be at this entry level position for 3 years, and that was kind of my mindset coming in because I had zero experience,
in sales.
I was doing marketing and at the button factory, I would answer the phone and take an order, but it wasn't anything outbound. You weren't really, people knew what they wanted. They'd already seen it online. They were just calling to have you help them through the process, so it was more order taking than anything. But when I got on CWS, it was more of, hey, you got to be out and network and get to know people. And here's this person.
It's all B2B.
Yep.
CWS sales. Yep.
Yep.
And so part of that, like, what was the main things that you were selling?
Websites and custom programming. That was like the very first thing that kind of was on my plate. Had the aptitude because I knew how to code to an extent. I don't like to say I know how to code because there's experts and I have, the guys on the team are great at it and I know where compared to that, but I understood the language enough that I could speak it and explain it to people. And then, just websites and then the hosting, that was basically it. And then within, a few months, then it more evolved into marketing. And we use HubSpot, and that's, what our CRM and marketing platform that we use. And we're a HubSpot partner. So that was another thing that we were kind of selling their packages. And they came out with this service called Growth Driven Design. So that was another thing that like I took lead on and felt like this was a great service to offer the customer base. And I think that's what really it was at that time. And over the years, we've kind of transitioned.
So
still transitioning.
Propelling forward, you said, you thought you were going to be in that entry position for 3 years. What did it actually look like? How did your 7 years go?
Oh, in reality? Yeah. So it was probably a year and a half into it. Alan, and it's kind of funny because him and I kind of operate very similarly. And I think that's why he felt comfortable, texting me kind of in the middle of the night, or it was actually really early in the morning. But I had already seen, because I was up late before, that he threw something on my calendar for like the next morning. But it was like at midnight, it was like way late. And I was actually really nervous because earlier that day, we had an issue with one of my clients that, customer service mishandled something. And I had sent an email to the customer service team, kind of letting them know like, hey, moving forward, and I'll handle all communication with this particular customer.
Right.
And so I thought I was actually going to get reprimanded for like kind of stepping out, on their toes and getting into their wheelhouse.
This is what's going.
So I was really nervous. I didn't sleep much that night. And I got in that morning and Alan, really painted the picture of kind of where he thought the future was for the company at that time, and offered me the opportunity to join the leadership team.
Yep. Which was how many people?
At the time, so it's Kim and Alan, so those two, and then there were 3 others. So it was a team of 5 at the time, and I was going to be the 6th leadership.
This was
member.
a year and a half in.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep. And to me, I think timing was right. I was the first of the new sales guy crew, so I kind of got my first pick of the leads list, of the customer list of opportunities, and I hit. I had some great opportunities come through that I was able to help, and so I think that played into it. But then again, it was also I was asking a lot of questions. I was just always looking to try and improve wherever possible. I was getting pulled into other areas and helping the team out, and because I had experience with SEO and digital marketing, and sometimes the production side would run into a roadblock or have questions, and instead of trying to find someone out in the community, I was like, well, hey, I can help. I got a little experience in that, so I joined the leadership team about 18 months into it, and from there, I've kind of slowly ascended as opportunities have opened up, and the company's kind of product offerings and services have kind of changed and evolved. I've just kind of continued in, taking on more and more roles and responsibilities, just like, my entrepreneurial, soul always kind of does.
And that's, that's probably, you took in that same, drive that you had before into that leadership role. And it's just like, in general, I mean, employees can either thrive, and like really succeed in working, or you can just kind of skid by and do, hey, this is what I was hired to do, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it good enough, and I'm going to go home.
Yeah.
And then some people are okay with that. Some people prefer that. And I think there's some that are like, okay, but there's more, and
Yep.
I have to go for it kind of thing and pursue it.
I totally agree. Not that there's one way that's better or worse.
Right. I mean, you need both.
Yeah, absolutely. But for me, my personality type and how I operate, I just can't do it any other way.
Yep.
There's a book that I read twice now, Good to Great.
Yeah.
First time I didn't get much out of it, or from the leadership standpoint. It was more like tactically, what were they doing to get their company to scale, and the stories behind that type of those tactics. That's what the first time I got. Second time, I totally struck me with the level 5 leader, company first mindset, not to the detriment of your family, or where you're burning out type of thing, but where you're always making decisions based on what's best for the company. And to me, I've always felt like I just have always naturally done it. And that book was the first one to really put words to what I've always felt like, well, I can't do it any other way. If there's a goal to go hit and it takes 12 hours to get it hit that day, then I'm going to put in 12 hours and work that day.
Right.
And that's what it takes to get the job done. That's what it's going to take. And that's, as a family business, that's how,
and they notice that. I'm
raised and trained, and
Yep.
I enjoy that. It's not like it's a drag. It's exciting, Like you said, the drive, I enjoy it a lot.
Are you a guy that if you're not like progressing, you get kind of bored quickly?
I don't know. I always got to be like growing, like my knowledge, and but I would say as I've gotten older, I'm okay with all right, for example, I just finished reading, Good to Great.
Yep.
I don't need to jump into the next book immediately. I want to let this percolate and be the freshest thing in my mind until I can implement or change some of the things that while I was reading it or while I was going through it, that I said I wanted to do.
Right.
Whereas, I think even 5 years ago, it was, 1 to 2 books a month. And then I felt like, oh man, I've got way more ideas and tactics and things to do than I can even get done. So, I'm always driven and want to, but I'm okay with kind of taking it a little bit slower and letting it percolate more. And
I mean, I think that's part of that is even just like just learning over the years. And I mean, slowing down to move quicker, is a big concept. And even, I don't do that enough. I'm still, again, 4 years into, this journey, and we've grown fairly rapidly.
Yeah.
And part of that is just because the sheer hustle and the time that you're putting into it. But I think things that you learn during your journey, and you're, probably at what, 30, you said you're 37?
36, 37 in February.
Yeah. So, I just turned 27.
Nice.
A couple of days ago. Yeah. So, and it was just what can I learn over these next 10 years and how am I going to think differently? And there's probably a lot more strategy and things that just go into it. But it's right now, it's let's just go.
Yep.
And, but no, I like that. Slowing down to move quicker.
Yeah. Yep. I think that's a great way to put it.
Yep. So part of the leadership, team, you've been growing over these last 7 years. When did the company shift into the Wellbeing Index?
Sure. It was the day after Thanksgiving, 3 or 4 years ago. COVID always throws off my perception of time. It was before COVID, but was it 2 years before COVID or 1 year?
Yeah.
It's somewhere in there. And leading up to that Thanksgiving break, Johnny Yukis, My Town, My Music, he's our chief process officer at CWS. That's his day job while he's not out with the My Town, My Music crew, putting out live music here. Him and I had, kind of been asking a few questions, getting a little more curious about the product, Wellbeing Index, which at the time was a project we had worked on with Mayo Clinic. 2 doctors over there created the scoring system, the questions. It's a 9-question survey that measures burnout amongst healthcare workers and professionals. And we made it into the digital version. So they contracted us to program it out.
Yep.
And Alan, saw the opportunity in it and licensed it from Mayo as an exclusive license for us to market it, resell it, kind of bring it to market.
Right.
And, Alan was the only one kind of doing it on the side. It's kind of a little side project. There was a couple trade shows that Dr. Derby and Dr. Schenefeld, the 2 co-developers of the tool, were speaking at that, Alan would go and do a trade show, but it was totally outside of the current team of CWS.
Absolutely.
He was kind of one-man showing it, for about maybe the first year and a half.
Do you think he was just testing the waters?
Absolutely.
At that time?
That's exactly what it was.
I have a team that's just solid. They're doing their thing. This is kind of interesting. I want to see where it goes.
That's exactly what it was. We were doing a few million in revenue over on the CWS side, marketing, websites, hosting, all that kind of stuff. The company was running, quite well.
Yep.
So he was testing it for sure. Johnny and I, we were aware of it. A few things would come in, kind of get into the production side of things to bring on some new customers, and we started asking questions. And I would say couple weeks before Thanksgiving, we kind of threw in we'd like to dedicate some of our time to this, kind of think about it, Alan.
So you 2 just met with Alan.
Yeah, we just kind of, I think we just even threw it in an email where it's just hey, we think if we could, put 20% of our effort towards this, because we knew the website needed a little bit updating. It didn't have much, marketing or onboarding process. It was kind of pretty sketchy, it wasn't
a little bit thrown together.
Yeah, and it was just a test market, So day after Thanksgiving, Alan shot us a text and was hey, I know it's Thanksgiving weekend, but do you guys think you can hop on, sometime midday on Friday? And I want to talk to you guys about something. And we hopped on and, Alan said, yep, let's do this. And let's set a goal for, 10 years. Let's try and get to 1 million assessments or, 1 million surveys done within the tool. And I'll never forget, Johnny and I were kind of on the side, 1 million, in 10 years, that's 100,000 a year. I don't know if we're going to be able to do that. Well, we're on pace to actually probably beat that now that we're 4 years into really focusing on it.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so from that day forward, Alan was yep, you guys put some effort aside, and kind of like that
still
80,
not
20,
fully,
not fully yet. Yep.
Yep.
It's kind of at that time it was 80-20, like 80% still do the day-to-day.
Right.
That's getting money in the door now. And then go ahead, put 20% of you guys' effort, kind of start getting the other team members into it.
And that's a
start
big
testing it out.
thing for a company that established with that much clientele and that much revenue to go, let's start just pivoting and just completely do something different.
Yeah.
And like part of that, obviously there was struggles within that. What kind of things did you face, in that transition that were struggles that you had to kind of overcome? Because I mean, that's a big shift. That's a large
Absolutely.
deal from employees to current clients to, I mean, everything.
Yeah. So the transformation from, digital agency to software as a service company, for sure, the biggest challenge for me, and it wasn't unexpected, it was totally expected, but was the turnover. So you hire people to come into the marketing agency company, and then you start to pivot to something that they might not have even signed up for or would have even applied if that was the job when they got to. So there definitely was some turnover due to the transformation on that. And of course, anytime you have turnover, it's a struggle. It's going to be a hiccup. It's going to slow the roll. Especially the leadership team, we tend to take on the extra work as much as we can. Hey, that project manager leaves. All right, Johnny's filling in for all those projects now. Oh, that salesperson leaves. Guess who's getting all those now? PJs. So that was and still is our biggest challenge and speed bump.
How have clients taken that shift?
Well, we haven't cut off our past services yet. So haven't gotten to that point yet, but right now we had a content management system that we developed internally. Anyone that wants updates to that now, we're basically telling them like, hey, this is going to go away and we're not going to do updates to this. We need to get you into something that's a little more flexible. And, right now it's all WordPress. So it's like, hey, let's just get you into WordPress. And then you've got a platform that works well wherever you might go.
And doing it just, obviously over time and the best that you can.
Yep.
To keep them.
Absolutely. And that's where we are right now. We're at the stage of, hey, you want some, something new done with your website. All right, let's get you into WordPress and then let you know that, hey, you can now manage your site on your own. You don't need us.
Right.
And we're just trying to kind of help each individual customer that we have go through that transformation as well.
Yep. Because, I mean, obviously you want to take care of, customers and everything like that, but you're also trying to not neglect just the growth of the Wellbeing Index and where you see the potential of that going.
Absolutely.
At the same time.
Yep.
So just kind of juggling that, all at once. What have been some of like the key growth strategies in taking the Wellbeing Index and growing it over the last 3-4 years now?
Yeah. Key strategies. Well, I know we do HubSpot. I mentioned that before. Marketing automation. That I think has been huge for us, especially when we've been faced with turnover. That we continue to have now that we're 3 or 4 years in, and it's been built and running for 3 years now. Yep. There's always a flow of inbound opportunities coming in. In fact, more than we can field at this point.
Yeah.
I hear other places that do sales, do B2B sales, might not have that volume or that flow. So I think that's one thing. We do a lot of that via marketing automation. Hey, they fill out a form, they go through this 5 to 7 email workflow. So over the course of 6 months, that's continuing to educate, provide more resources. Okay, now they fill out another form, or they demo, or they request pricing. What does that trigger now? Right. And all this is happening in the background even before any salesperson, any customer or client success rep has ever touched it.
Yep.
And then,
So a lot of that was automated.
Yep. And the prospects and the opportunities when they do need help and they do reach out to a person, especially, if it's our sales team, they're way more educated, it's less of a sales process and more of just like, well, let me just take you through the process of getting the tool. And that's another benefit of us and having this license is it's exclusive. If you want the Wellbeing Index, we're the only spot you can get it. And so people
That's always
kind of
nice.
reach. Yeah, it is. Now there's other tools out there that compete with us, but we're the only ones that have the Wellbeing Index.
I was going to say like the CWS had to play like a big, basically the information that you guys knew and were doing had to be pretty prominent in like how fast the Wellbeing Index grew just by taking like what you knew from digital marketing and web development and programming, and like it had to be a pretty quick change because you had the talent already.
Yeah.
To be able to do a lot of it.
Yep. And I think, I'd say the OGs that have continued that were hired when it was the agency that are still there today and crushing it with the Wellbeing Index have said it before, and I agree totally, is it's fun to do it for yourself.
Right.
Whereas before we get a customer come in and it's all about their business, and I remember at one point.
That's interesting.
Yeah. We'd have a team of us that would, kind of, we had a couple teams and you'd have 7 or 8 customers all at the same time running. And so you'd have to pivot from one, industry type of persona you're targeting and now move to another one,
Well, I feel like that happens so much because like if you're in a service-based, industry, like you're serving your clients before yourself typically.
Yep.
And, I think about that, with our stuff, it's like, oh, we got to do a new commercial, a new ad or something like that and put something out. And it's just like, okay, but that comes behind every client project.
Right.
And like the new ones constantly come in. So it's like this game of like cat and mouse, just trying to catch up on client work to get some time to do our own stuff, and it's just an interesting point to go like, because it is more fun sometimes to go, oh, we get to spend some time on doing this for ourselves now and creating that. So yeah, that's an interesting point. Because it happens a ton. I just don't think about it. It's just like, obviously we're going to take care of our clients first kind of thing. So digital marketing and automation, those are, we'll hit each one of those kind of separately, but I know that you have just, history doing some of that stuff. How do you think, and obviously you've talked a little bit about how CWS has used it and how the Wellbeing Index has used it. Where do you think digital marketing, just for any company, any person, how is that lacking for so many, companies, or what could they be doing in a digital space that they're not?
Ooh, that one's tough, because of course the consultant in me is like, well, depends on your market, depends on your budget, and goes.
And a lot of it does.
And it does.
Yeah.
But I'll say this, the first thing is, as a business owner, as a small entrepreneurial business, thinking about tapping into testing the waters in digital marketing, you got to know who your ideal customer is. You got to know, whether it's, you want to call it your persona, your ideal
avatar,
customer, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You gotta have that written out. You gotta understand that, because that dictates so much of what channel, what medium, how much effort it's going to take. That I think a lot of companies, a lot of people miss sometimes. You see it a lot. You see it a lot miss with B2C.
Yeah.
It's a little harder in B2B, but again, B2B. If you ask someone, hey, who's your target? Oh, everyone is. Well, that's not necessarily true. You don't want everyone.
Well, and there's the whole rule of thumb: if you market to everyone, you're marketing to no one.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's something that we've taken in the video industry and really gone sure, you can do a video to do a video, but where's the strategy behind that? Where does it fit in? Where's it fit in? And then so much of it is sitting down and going, who are we trying to reach, and what does that message look like?
Yeah.
That we need to get in front of them. because it's so specific. It's like, sure, you can do just a blanket educational thing, but if you really have a specific purpose and you're using video as a tool, it's super targeted.
Oh yeah.
And but even in automation, like I feel like that is like people are understanding, okay, I should be using digital marketing, digital advertising, things like that. Automation, though, I feel like people are way behind on. Even ourselves being in this industry and being just young in profession, it's like I literally just started this whole automated email campaign, using a couple different softwares, and like great leads are coming from it, and I don't have to be doing anything with it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's just mind blowing. Like what, how, and why have I not been doing this for longer? What's your take on like automation and like, business strategies and like how more people could implement that into their companies?
Yeah, I think at a high level, it's, you don't want to have all your eggs in one basket. So if you're, legacy old company and you guys do cold calling and that's your jam, yeah, that's great. You probably should continue to do that if it's seeing results. But you probably should also be looking at where's the future and what's the next channel to tap into, because maybe someday you can't do cold calling anymore. Or something happens where that doesn't work or it's not as effective. So,
and it can also supplement it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's my motto, so we've added automation levels within our stuff, to help scale it, like you said, so that there's more opportunities flowing in that didn't take a lot of human effort. It's a set it and forget it for a little while type of motto. A little while means because you want to go back and revisit and fine tune, and it's never perfect. And then
there's usually a lot of like steps in setting it up.
Yeah.
A lot of tweaking.
Yeah, I'd say the initial setup does take some thought and some effort. But again, it really doesn't need to if you don't want it to, because you get it out, test it for a few weeks, you're going to tweak it anyways, So, but yeah, I think automation is one of those channels that should be a part of your strategy, however you do it, whether it's with a enterprise level tool like HubSpot, or you're using MailChimp's workflows and you're using that. Both accomplish similar goals and can have the same kind of output.
I fully agree with that. Yeah, moving into employees, part of being on the leadership team, that's been just, some of what you've done, correct? Just
absolutely
the hiring process and whatnot. How has hiring and like retaining, because like one thing is hiring, the other is retaining. How have those played into like the success of CWS and into the Wellbeing Index, and how does culture fit into that?
Sure. All right. So you asked a couple questions there.
Yeah.
Well,
I always do that.
Yeah, culture I'll say is probably the most important in all aspects of the hiring and retaining process. And then hiring and retaining talent, absolutely, it's instrumental. There's clear points in our trend lines where you can see where there was turnover, and then you can see where, all right, we hired 2 new people, and then it took them a few months to get okay. Now those 2 people are ramped up. Now look at where we're at. So both are very important. Both are things that I'm still learning and growing to do. But again, I've always been of the mindset, and this is something that, I was taught by other great leaders and kind of put together. And, I've got a moral responsibility as a leader to do what's best for the people that I have, chosen and been a part of choosing to join the team. And if I'm, on that leadership team, I want what's best for them no matter what. And I expect in exchange for that when you are giving us your 40, that you're giving us your best too. Okay. No matter what happens, if you decide, or we decide, this isn't a fit anymore, we're going to work together to find the next step to help that person. So, we've had turnover, and a lot of that I'd say attributes to the transformation that we've gone through as a company. But all of those turnovers, all of those people, especially, people that I have hired or been a part of that hiring process, I feel like have been both when we've hired them, they've helped us grow as a company, helped the leadership team grow as a leadership team, because you learn from every person and hiring experience you got. But then those people going on have learned from us as well. And to me, that's great. So I do get a little hurt when people leave, but it's more just like, oh, the Band-Aid stings for a day. And then it's like, okay, no, great for that person. They got a great opportunity. I hope I was a part of them, growing to get that opportunity. And I'm excited to go and help another new person come on. That's kind of the way I look at it, 12 hours after I've heard the news. Because the first 12 hours, I'm usually like, oh, darn it. Like, crap,
Yeah. I mean, you put a lot into your employees.
Absolutely.
In general. I mean, there's a lot of time, energy, relationships, and just a ton that goes into it. So, and you always hear, you're working for your employees, and it's just, it's big because, if you really think that way, that you have to take care of them and lead them in a way, because they're letting you do your thing and like live a certain life. So like in a way, like really looking at it as we work for them, I think has been a part of even like all our culture here. And just like employees are so important, and just like the relationships and creating that work environment that they like and everything like that that's been interesting. It's also been one of the hardest things that I've learned just about business and growth, because the more employees that we get, the more issues that come up, the more legal stuff that we have to deal with, the more insurance, and it's just like there's a lot of growth and a lot of learning in hiring, and in firing.
Absolutely.
That you have to go through. I want to hit on motivation quick.
All right.
What gets PG up in the morning, just freaking ready to rock, crush the day? What excites you?
Yeah, good question. I've been asked this before, and I think it changes every time I get asked. From the work aspect of things, I love doing my best or trying to achieve my best, and but know that, hey, there's always another level of growth to go, and never being, satisfied. I think I love that. That's, on a personal note, that's my wife and kids and family. That's usually what wakes me up first and what gets me going. And that's, I don't think, and it's hard to tell in another world, the type of individual or person I would be without them, and that's really what motivates me to just keep on keeping and chugging along and doing my best at work and trying to achieve, as high as achievements and growth as possible, so ultimately that, my kids can have, a great future, and my wife and I can have a great life, and all of that can be done together. And
absolutely,
and I kind of got the flexibility and the, I'd say the work culture to support that and have that all be, what do they call it? Work-life integration. That's good. That's, it's great where I'm at. So I think that's what is another piece on the personal side that gets me up,
excited,
motivates me every day.
That's great. So future of the company.
And I like winning. Sorry. That's
huge.
I love to win.
That's a good point. I don't ask that enough, because like, I feel like that's a key, part of just like how hungry someone is, or I don't know where they get to or whatever. It's just like this dogmatic urge to win.
Yep.
It's like, but yeah, future of the company, where CWS is going, where the Wellbeing Index is going, going into 2022, you're stepping in as the CEO.
Yeah.
Which is, great. Congrats for that.
Thank you.
And what does that look like going into next year and this future?
Yeah, we'll still continue to do websites and hosting and email, probably for another few years. Haven't really put a end date or anything on that yet. We still have capacity and all the equipment and all the skill set and the team to support that, for the next few years, I'd see. But again, that can change. Anything can change.
Right.
But with the Wellbeing Index, we're trying to continue to grow, adding 10, 20 customers a quarter. That's kind of one of those big goal thresholds that we haven't quite been able to hit. We've hit it here in spots here and there, but that's, where we'd like to try and get our growth rate to, if we could, but for me, it's as long as we have good, steady growth and we're continuing to grow our annual recurring revenue, which, for me is most important for us to be, fiscally responsible and sustainable and continue being able to grow and retain and hire great talent and have a great work culture and company. That's kind of where we're at. We're going to be hiring again, as we get into early Q1, so expanding the team.
Yep.
Yeah, that's our 2022. I think is another year of good, consistent, solid growth and growing the team.
Yeah. And it'll be interesting for you and like just your personal growth, just stepping into that role.
Yeah, I think for me, in that role, it's going to be a lot of figuring out, what roles and skill sets and people to add to offload or delegate down some of the day-to-day tasks that I've been doing as, with my current position, Chief Strategy Officer, and, which I still like doing my digital marketing things and running some campaigns, I get that's kind of fun. But again, I understand that there's going to be other roles and responsibilities I'm going to be responsible for. So that's going to be another thing for me personally as a 2022 kind of growth is, delegating that stuff to new people.
That's one thing that a lot of entrepreneurs coming up don't always think about is like you start because you're good at something and you like doing something. If you're lucky enough to have that turn into a company with employees, there is a lot of sacrifice within being, the owner or the CEO or the person running it, that it's like you don't always get to do the things that you originally enjoyed doing or originally why you even started it.
Yep.
Because you have responsibility now to do other things to keep the business going and the growth moving.
Right.
And
like how much video are you editing now?
Right.
How much video are you filming now? Right.
And that's the thing. Like I don't really shoot. I don't edit at all really anymore. And the podcast has actually been fun because I've actually gotten to edit and
nice.
Be a part of shooting these. But yeah, it's just like I didn't realize that, and the more I read, even different books, I forget which one it was specifically, but it just brought up that point that like things are going to change, and as a business owner, if that's truly what you want to be, there's a lot of sacrifice within that that you have to do. But just in general, PJ, it's been awesome having you on.
Yeah, thanks.
I know that I've taken a lot away. I hope a lot of listeners have
I hope so
had
too.
some sweet nuggets that they can
I hope there are some good nuggets in there.
learn from. Oh, absolutely. As you know, a lot of the people listening are in business or in entrepreneurship or in just growth in general. What would you leave a listener with? It's always the fun thing because it just comes out of nowhere. But what would you leave someone with that's listening? Just advice on kind of their journey.
Well, I guess never be satisfied. Don't get I've dubbed the term. I'm sure that someone else has dubbed this, but in my circle of friends and people, I haven't heard anyone use this. But the fat cat syndrome. You have a great quarter, a great year, great growth. Don't get complacent. Because as we've seen, a pandemic can hit and throw a wrench in everything. So I look back on the Button Factory, and our growth over 25 years as well. And there was probably a few years where just all of us, we hit huge growth, things and growth years. And we probably missed a few opportunities to use that for further growth versus, all right, getting kind of complacent and
Right.
fat cat syndrome, sitting back, patting the belly, feeling good.
That happens a lot.
Yeah. So that's the one thing I would say, because even me, I think there was a turning point. I mentioned it earlier, some of the milestones as you grow as a leader and as an entrepreneur, where I realized we were in that rut. And it was like, nope, I want to keep going. I'm a skinny cat right now, and I got to get myself back into that mindset. So that for me is, don't get complacent. Don't ever think enough is enough. If you've got the drive and the ability and, especially if you got employees, I personally feel like, hey, you're morally obligated to keep driving and pushing, because you're the lid. If you stop, well, now you just put a lid on everyone else that's working with you on that team. So, and you'd be better off just stepping aside if at that point you're the lid. Put someone else in that position that's not going to be a lid.
Yep.
So yeah, that's me. That's the one. Well, don't get complacent.
That's good.
Avoid fat cat syndrome.
Because it happens. I mean, it's happened to me. You see little bits of success, and you start to go, okay, this is working, but then you don't push as hard, and then it backs off, and then you're like, what happened? And then you realize pretty quickly that you have to stay on it.
Yep.
So I like that. Again, appreciate you coming on today. For the listeners, if you've enjoyed this episode, please share with friends, family, whoever you think would benefit from listening. And as always, we appreciate you listening. And thanks again for coming on, Pete.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. This was great.